Hi friends, Itheria here, and for this week's video I thought it would be fun to take a trip down memory lane and talk about some of my first impressions for Final Fantasy XIV. I've been playing the game since December of 2019, so it's been over 2.5 years, and of course I can't really approach this type of video as a new player because I'm not a new player, but I had some rather spicy thoughts when I first started playing, so I thought it'd be kind of fun to share them. So I tend to be the kind of person who goes into certain things with a lot of skepticism, and I don't know why. Like, I will go into something and have like a very negative outlook, and again, I just don't know why. I'll expect it to be bad, or I will immediately nitpick flaws, but the thing is, I always end up loving those things. Like, I tend to be so harsh and so judgmental and so doubtful that I'm going to like enjoy it, but then I love it, and it's so weird. I don't know why I do that. I don't even consciously do it, but I do realize after the fact that I am that way, and some of my friends have pointed it out too. So yeah, I was just as skeptical about Final Fantasy XIV, so let's talk about some of those skepticisms. I remember opening up the character creator. I might have even used Benchmark because one of my friends kind of got me into Final Fantasy XIV, and he told me about the Benchmark because I wanted to play the free trial and you couldn't play like bunny girls, but I was interested in them. So he was like, hey, use the Benchmark, whatever. And I remember looking through all of the female races and being kind of disappointed, not because I didn't think they were pretty. I mean, part of the reason I wanted to play 14 was because I had seen screenshots from the game before and thought the characters and the world looked nice. It looked like a fun game from the outside, but I remember thinking that I wished there was a human race without any ears or tail that was actually pretty. I'm so sorry, Hearers. I'm so sorry, Hearemains. That was how I felt. And I wished I could just be, I remember thinking, I wish I could be a cat girl without the ears and without the tail. And funny story about that, I wasn't sure at first what the cat girls were supposed to be. I noticed they had several different tails. They had like a lion tail, they have a floofy tail, like, you know, they have a plethora of different tail options, and I chose the floofy one, and I chose my original face, which you guys have seen, was the face with the markings. And that reminded me of Kitsune. If you've ever seen like the Kitsune masks or just anything Kitsune related, it really reminded me of that. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe it's a Kitsune. I feel better about that. But very, very shortly, I found out that it was in fact a cat race because I tried one of the emotes. It was very feline. I remember Googling about it. I was like, are they Kitsune? Are the cat? And I had to accept the fact that I was a cat girl. And at first I wasn't very happy with that because I feel like, at least in the like anime or I suppose weeb community, I don't know what you even want to refer to it as, there is like this certain, I don't want to say stigma, but there's just this certain like thought process about people who like cat girls or who like want to be cat girls. I don't know. I just wasn't really there for it at the time. But now I'm all in. Cat girl for life. You can't stop me. Now I'm out here defending cat girls with like my like dying breath. But yes, I do remember thinking that I wished I could just be normal, which maybe seems so boring, like why would you want to be normal playing a fantasy game? But I was like, I really don't want a character with a tail. So like the Ora may not have been a cat girl, but it still had a tail. So I just remember feeling that way, but I ultimately still chose to play a miqo'te for my first ever race, and I played it for like 2 years because I just really liked the face model. I thought it was pretty. I liked how she was kind of serenely smiling. I liked the way that the lip colors dyed, and my favorite thing about them was absolutely the eyes. I just loved how beautiful and vibrant the eyes were. They were easy to see from afar. That was what I loved. Some of the other races, like Viera, especially I think it's Vina, if you pick Vina, they have like really big pupils, and the color of the eyes is not very vibrant. It's not very bright or pronounced, so you almost can't see what color their eyes are unless you zoom in, and I hated that. I was like, no. Although Bunny Girls was actually what I wanted to be. That was the race I wanted to play the most. And why didn't I do that? And why did I want to be that the most? So first of all, the reason that I wanted to be the bunny girl was because I thought all of the characters were like way too skinny, like the cat girls and especially the Ora. I thought they were both, even the year, I was like, they are way too thin. I was like, they're like anorexic. That's how I felt about them. And not only that, because they were so thin, I thought they looked like they were 15. I was like, these look like preteen characters. They're not womanly at all. And I didn't love that. Being far past my teenage years myself, I really didn't want to play a character that looked like a teenager, so I appreciated how tall and kind of voluptuous the bunny girls were. I thought they were gorgeous and I was super into them, but I didn't play one because I wanted to play the free trial before playing the game, and my friend was like, well, you can play the free trial and then once you get the game, you can get a free Fantasia. So I was like, okay, then I'll play the cat girl for now and eventually Fantasia. But obviously, I kind of fell in love with my character. I grew attached to her, and it's not that I didn't necessarily want a Fantasia, because you guys know I have now Fantasia'd like 3 times, but I only had the one, and I was like, if I Fantasia with this one Fantasia, I'm gonna end up having a Fantasia addiction or something. Like, I'm gonna want to change back. I just didn't want to get caught in this loop of like having to pay over and over to Fantasia. So I didn't want to use it at all, and I did really like my cat girl. By that point, I became fully indoctrinated. So those were kind of my main skepticisms about the game. I originally didn't want to have to play a character with ears and a tail, but I did anyway. And I didn't like how skinny they looked and how immature. I just really wanted like a voluptuous, mature woman, but I don't know, I feel like I don't agree with those thoughts anymore, because maybe I'm just so used to the way that the character models look now. But I also think that I kind of have found ways to make my characters look more mature, both through the way that I dress them as well as through like the makeup that they use. Actually, the first cat girl I ever made, I deleted and recreated. I made this cat girl, she had like heterochromia. One eye was like a light blue teal color, similar to the cat girl I have now, and the other eye was yellow, and then she had like light pink lips. And I just remember thinking that I didn't like it, and I thought she looked way too young. I was like, there's something off about this character. She just looks so young, and I didn't like it. Like I said, she looked like she was like 14, and I wasn't here for it. So I deleted her and recreated, and that's when I went with the white eyes, and I don't know, and the dark lip kind of became my signature, the white eyes dark lip thing, and I felt like it made my character look so much older and more mature. I don't know why I felt that way, but I did, and I just liked it so much more. Another big criticism I had, which I think is still very valid, I was disappointed in the customization because so many of the MMOs I played before that did not have the budget that Final Fantasy XIV has, did not have the huge following and player base, still had better customization. I remember playing games that were like, they were like old and they looked old, but they still had better customization. Usually they would have sliders, and I was like, I don't really like customization like you see in something like BDO, because it's too much. Like literally, it's too many choices, too much freedom. I could spend literally 24 hours trying to make a character and still not be happy, because I would just feel like there'd be too many things for me to try and see how it looked. So I find Black Desert's customization overwhelming, and I just think that's bad. I think it's a bad thing. But I thought 14 just didn't have enough. I was like, okay, if you're only going to give us 4 faces, what about sliders that allow you to make the eyes longer or wider, or adjust the position of the eyes on the face? And same with the lips and other features. So I was really disappointed in that, and honestly, I do still think that character creation and customization is one of the game's, I guess, weak points. I do think the community has still found ways to create unique characters and express themselves, especially through things like fashion and even modding, even though modding is not technically allowed. Like I said, I do still feel like people who care about that sort of thing are finding ways to create characters that they love and that suit their own personalities and styles and tastes. But it does just suck that you run around and it's like, if somebody's the same race as you, they look like they could be your sister or your cousin or something, because like everybody has the same face, you know? So I still agree with my skeptical self from 2.5 years ago that the game really needs work with character customization when you're first creating the character, but the characters have overall grown on me. I don't mind having a tail anymore. I actually really like the Ora scales. I think they're really cool, although I didn't think I really had anything against the scales back then. I was just like, I didn't even know what an Ora was supposed to be, and I didn't want a tail. That was like the one thing. I just didn't want to have a tail. I was like, I don't care about anything else, just why do I have to have a tail? But again, now I don't give a shit. I'm like, it's part of the game, right? Like now it's something that is normal to me. And the last thing I'll say for first impressions was that I thought the dungeons were incredibly boring and I hated them with every fiber of my being. The only thing that kept me playing the game was probably the story and looking forward to fashion at endgame, because I still remember running around in Gridania and seeing somebody wearing the Nier outfit and being like, what is that? I must have it. And my friend explained to me that it was from a level 80 dungeon, and I was like, okay, I'm getting to 80. And while I wouldn't say that I rushed through the MSQ, I think it took me like 3 months to do it all, the promise of good fashion certainly kept me going through all the boring parts. Plus, I am an MMO veteran. Like, I've played so many MMOs, I kind of know how it is in terms of like games usually getting better or different at the endgame level. It didn't feel bad for me to get to 80, but no, I did not like dungeons at all. And honestly, I still kind of don't. I think that they're way too easy and they tend to be boring, but I guess that's why we have Savage and Extreme. Anyway, I've been babbling for quite some time now, so I'm gonna put a plug in this video. What were your first impressions of Final Fantasy XIV, if you remember them? Was there anything that you were super excited about, or anything that you were super skeptical about the way that I was? As always, please remember to leave a sacrifice for Lord Algorithm in the form of a like, comment, share, or subscribe, and thank you so much for watching. Bye!